We're not going to lecture. In fact, quite the opposite. What I've asked the panel to do is share with us their case studies, their examples, their experience, and really tell us how they have met the various challenges. Before we go into those details, I just want to ask the room, if you could just raise your hands, who is it in here in an organization that uses an emergency mass notification system? Thank you very much. And who of all of you who have put your hands up believe that it's easy to use and is fundamentally effective for your business? It's an interesting change. Okay. The next piece, taking that forward, is really how do we look at the individual traveler? How do we look at that remote worker? How do we look at that worker who is working from home, for which or for whom we still have a duty of care? And what are the challenges that face there? The first question really I'm asking Jake to lead on his case study is how organizations are challenged when staff book their travel, whether that's authorized, and how that can have a ramification later on.
Thank you, Nigel. So I had a bit of a baptism of fire with a previous company I worked with into travel risk management. We had quite a robust regional policy, but it didn't expand into the global picture. So within Africa and the Middle East region, we had this process of notification. But all of a sudden, I received a phone call at about 4 o'clock in the morning from one of my colleagues in Amsterdam that one of his travelers had gone missing, had booked a flight into Nigeria, got a taxi, drove all the way north, and they'd lost communications with him. And so for me, that realization that not only do we have to make sure we're aligned within our spheres, within our business, we have to make sure that it's fully interlocked with every other department that we're working with.
Great. Pete, you've had a similar experience previously?
Yeah, thanks, Nigel. Yeah, so we'd an individual, a very senior business development guy, engaging directly with a minister of oil in a certain country, obviously high risk, and he just bypassed the security process because it always takes time and, the ticks in the boxes. So he just engaged with the minister directly, arranged his own flight, and of course he was picked up under a reasonably good umbrella of security by the minister and his team. However, he went across every sort of process that we have. Of course, we commended him because he actually looking at the business, the future of the business. However, around that time, there potentially was specific targeting of the ministry and the minister, and lo and behold, our guys sat with him. So, we use that a bit of a lessons learned, especially for him, and elements of the business. And since then, in my current organisation, we build this into the DNA of the team, from the top down, from the ex-com all the way down to our blue-collar workers, dare we say, that we follow the process, yeah, for sure.
Cool. And Jake, what have you got inside your current organisation that prevents a repetition of what you've experienced before?
Very heavy with regards to booking through the tool. You have to, basically, if you don't book through the tool, you don't travel.
Well, do you get reimbursed?
If you book outside the tool, no.
Okay, good point. Business travel, leisure travel, that horrid word, leisure, I haven't quite got my head around it. As a company, we fly our staff around the world. But if we fly them in and ultimately we're going to fly them out, we as a company are responsible for them. And the challenge there, as we've seen across and want to benchmark it today, is when does that duty of care start? When does that duty of care stop? Because while the individual can be at risk, that individual on his leisure time is also then providing a risk to the reputation of the company, should it go wrong or when it goes wrong. And how do you handle it inside your organizations, Gary?
Yeah, thanks, Nigel. For us at Kareem, talent is the top priority for the company and the business. And the only way we're going to attract top talent in this region is being flexible. So for us to be able to be flexible with our staff and also educate them on their personal security and to be able to ensure that they actually understand the implications of the areas that they're traveling to, We want to make sure that they're safe when they're out there doing that. And for us, I think the best way to look at it is we adhere to the OFAC list. So any country that's on that, if somebody's applying to work from elsewhere, they're not allowed to select those countries that are on the OFAC list, so they can't even apply to go there. And then in other countries, we're very collaborative in the company. I work very closely with the CISO, and our tools are very robust. So if they can select a country to work from anywhere in, they're allowed to go there, and then they can take their laptop and to be able to do that.
Cool. And Pete, you've had similar examples of people wanting to work from the wild and the glorious.
Yeah. And of course, you can pick a country such as Burkina Faso, I'll name that. We have an individual from there. So he believes to him there's no risk, which is fine. However, he wants to work from home, which means taking his assets with him. Company information, etc., etc. So, albeit there's not a specific risk to the gentleman, there is to the business. So that's a no-no. And very much like Gary said, we risk rate each country, and it doesn't matter if we say it's a high-risk country. You do not work from home from there. Period. Even if you live there, because the risk, like we said, just not to the individual, to the business, and of course the reputation, which is, paramount for us all. Yeah.
And Jake, you've had a different experience, I think, between the middle of those two.
Yeah, so departments, through their leadership, they'll choose with regards to time in office, so dedicated time in office, dedicated time, work from home, work from other parts of the world. It's just then having to manage that with each department's requirements, which can prove a bit challenging.
Good. And Waheed, certainly, with what you and your team and the authorities here have put in place to create a very safe environment in Dubai, could you give us some examples of how you have brought that safety so remote travelers can be secure and work comfortably?
Yes, of course. We are in Dubai always think the security is more a big thing. You have to offer security for all sector. If we speak about public transport sector, everybody know using the transport security is not like airports or not like any other kind of transport. So people in hurry, we cannot bother them with the procedure or something. So in Dubai, what we are doing in Dubai is all our public transport vehicles, buses, and even metros and all trams. It's all tracking system, which is connected direct with the OCC. Another thing that all the station there is monitoring by CCTV. So we are seeing the people, we are knowing what they are doing, we know where is the traffic, we know if there is something unusual, and almost all the public transport. And another thing that we are offering security, physical, by security and police officers. We speak about metros, we are 24/7, we are there in the stations, and even the buses, and all the sector. And as our colleagues here, educate and train our staff, sense security, body language for all the customers. This is our target, and we hope to reach this point.
Marvelous. And I think, we can back that up with personal experience and, the experience of friends, that you can leave your laptop, you can leave your purse, your wallet in a taxi by mistake in Dubai, and it'll disrupt you for an hour or two, but you're absolutely going to get that back, which is a wonderful place to be. Taking on, I think, Pete's point there, I want to expand a bit more on individual travelers moving with their assets, moving with their IT, moving with their smartphone, their laptop, whatever it might be around the world. The increasing nature of having everything on that device leached as soon as or within a few hours of you getting into a country. And certainly we've seen it in China, Nigeria, and others regionally. What are you facing as companies? And what are you actually doing about it? Because it must be a pertinent risk.
Sorry. Thanks, Nigel. Well, again, we risk rate the countries globally. There's certain countries, obviously, if you compare it to a hotel, we've all heard the saying, bad hotels, blue hotel, black hotels. You tap into the Wi-Fi, you're immediately just giving your information away. But there's certain countries that are the same. And I know that if we've got senior ex-com that are crossing a border, their information is possibly already being targeted right there at the airport. So we have, extreme countries for that. And what you recommend, we can't force the ex-com for sure, but we do have recommendations that when they're going on specific meetings into certain countries, it's a sanitised asset. So it might be a brand new phone that's empty and a brand new computer, that's empty, because they're going to, share information once they're in there. So, that's one of the measures we do take in certain areas.
And Jake, you've had similar?
Previous organisation I was working for, we would have the standard travel security management company advice, but certain countries would also have an extra layer where they would have to come to the regional security manager, and they would be provided with a clean phone, clean laptop, and on return, before that gets plugged in anywhere else, information's extracted and it's then totally sanitized again, just to ensure there's no malware sitting within it.
Right. Gary, you deal with it in a slightly different way.
Yeah, slightly different way. When we started the work from anywhere policy, we got together as a committee and we all chatted about, what would be the best way to serve our colleagues. Because again, we want to attract that top talent and we want to be flexible. We have over 65 nationalities working for us, so they live in various places around the world. And again, as long as they're not on that OFAC list, we feel that we have the tools on their laptops that at least meet our expectations to be able to work. And as long as that's the case and the work from home country has been approved by the committee, that a colleague is allowed to travel there.
Great. Moving slightly to one side from the corporate responsibility, there's a deep onus on the traveller themselves to actually engage with the security system, engage with the corporate system, but also that leaches over or leads over into what they can do or can't do to bring risk to themselves. And a lot of what I've heard over the last few days of conferences and today's the discussions this morning is about the social media problem. Individuals telegraphing their travel. I'm going to be doing this in advance. I can't wait to go there. And the unnecessary, arguably, risks that it brings to them as an individual, or it brings to a trust, a safety, or a security team. So I just want to ask what the experiences are you've had of the social media challenge, starting with Pete.
Yeah, quite large actually, Nigel. And as you said there, you can guarantee over the last few days, looking on LinkedIn, I know who's here because they've told us, they're giving away information. As part of a reasonably large organisation, obviously wanting to promote themselves and market themselves. They're doing a lot on LinkedIn. We've just won this contract. We're about to do that here, there, and everywhere. And this were at a very high level where individuals were saying, we're about to visit Egypt and go to this, or we're about to visit, XYZ, I'm going into Kuwait for this, and it were a no-no really, and it took a very sort of discreet prompt to the ex-com, be careful, they are a commodity, yeah. Not everybody's good in the world, as we know. That's why we're here, and they're potential targets for sure. And we, the ex-com, the CEO of the business, he identified and sort of agreed with that. So they made a policy now. It's well and good on LinkedIn saying I've just been to, and it was great. I met Pete, I met Tariq, Ali, etc. Rather than going, I am going to. Because you're just giving away information and it's not required.
And Jake, in Amazon, the pleasure leach over into social media?
It's a difficult one to manage. Trying to educate our travellers on report afterwards with looking at the LinkedIn, the Instagrams and those sort of things. Say it afterwards, as Pete said. Do not advertise your movements.
Right. And in terms of training and trying to educate people, Gary, how do you and your firm do that?
Yeah, Nigel. So we take it from the very beginning, from onboarding a new colleague. We're very proactive at educating them on personal security awareness, especially in the diverse region that we're working in. So from the very first time that they're a colleague within Kareem, they're educated on how to be aware of their social media profile, what to do, what not to do. And again, we do that on an annual training basis that's done, that has to be mandatory for that colleague to be able to continue to have access to certain programs on their laptop.
And Waheed, how have you developed this within public transport when somebody does see an unusual event or does see that something's wrong? Because there's always a challenge between social media and the right way to engage with it.
Yes, if we speak about security and social media, it's something like it's a big problem for us as a police officers, because everything is published in the social media. It will be like we have to do something because everybody see it. So what we always advise people, if you do something, if you see something unusual or you see something dangerous, crimes and any kind of accidents in the public transport, there is a channel that you can reach to the police. If you speak about here in Dubai, we have online services called Dubai Police Eye. So we can upload your video, your picture, your complaint, so it will reach to the exactly the right government sector, if it's Dubai Police or RTA or any another. So moreover, this is my personal advice for all: don't publish everything you see in the public transport, because if you take a picture for somebody that he can complain and he can complain you in the court. So something is a lot of accident happened in Dubai that people publish accident and then face their legal cases after that.
And I think that nicely that ties us into a couple of closing remarks, that the lone traveler or the lone worker or the remote worker, particularly when they choose to go to another country which they don't come from or haven't worked in before, and Dubai is very attractive for that, the employee has got a responsibility. And it's often not the risk in terms of a kidnap or in terms of being mugged that is the most pertinent risk. It's often a cultural risk of not understanding, as a good example there, how unacceptable a social media leech is, or what can affect them in their new work location, which they've chosen, compared to where they normally work, whether that's in an office or the country. And corporate security, chatting to the panel earlier, has certainly got to balance its role. Often the security or a safety team will get involved, but as soon as that part of an organization is challenging the privacy of individual employees, they come up against the workers' councils, unions in another word, trying to push that away from them. So it's certainly it's a challenge that is faced, I think, across the board. And the one piece that nobody's mentioned today, although we discussed last week, was the use of waivers and getting employees to sign the waiver. If you take your leisure time while we allow you to travel or enable your travel, or if you decide to go off piste, then here's the waiver, sign that, and we no longer have a responsibility. None of the panel have seen that being effectively enforced or defended. So it's not a risk that can be transferred, would be the piece that we would put across finally. You'll notice clearly I didn't introduce the panel. I don't think there's a need to. Everybody in the room can read and see their credibility. We've got, dare I say it, and I don't help on this matter, over 130 years of experience and a lot of corporate experience here. So I'd like to ask if there are any questions in the room, and if not, I will not delay you any longer from your lunch. Got a microphone in the corner down here. Thank you. Can always trust on Yassine to have a question.
Thanks for that, and a very, very interesting input and presentation. What I will add is more an input. What we faced in certain country is the liability in terms of taxes and labor law, which need also to be taken in consideration. We ask travelers, people traveling in different countries, And we had cases where people have been arrested, employees, because they were not eligible. They went working for 2-3 months in a country with a tourist visa. So this is one of the points where we are very careful. And the second one is about the medical insurance, especially as we go and out, hopefully forever from COVID. It's important also to ensure that they have the right medical cover part of the duty of care. That's the 2 points. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Yassine. Any other comments or questions from the floor?
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to ask, how do you measure the success of a robust travel risk management program?
Jake, how do you manage the success of a risk management program? Not having any incidents would be a simple way.
But it's the double-edged sword. No incidents, then senior management and accountants start looking and saying, well, we can, take some of your budget away because we don't see the need. So by having 0 incidents and accidents, we end up putting ourselves in the firing line. But yeah, it's a KPI of 0.
I think from the wider experience, having a KPI that's directed, we haven't had any incidents, so that might be a fantastic travel risk management program. It might be an awful lot of luck. One of the pieces that we've experienced previously is the travel risk management program enabling the business to conduct its operations. And that's not going to necessarily be through a survey, but that's general talk with business leaders, business unit leaders, managing directors, sales individuals. Are you able to do your business? Is our travel risk management team, our travel risk management platform system process helping you and enabling you, or do you feel it's a barrier? Because as soon as they start feeling it's a barrier is when they'll start trying to skirt around the outside. Luckily, I've got lots of Churchill nodding heads on the corner. So it's testing the temperature with the business you're trying to protect, manage, and assist, enable. And if you've got a good sentiment, then it's good, it's going well. I've got one more. Sorry,
just on that. Yeah, it's a great point, that, mate. because you've got to sit behind the business, not be an inhibitor for sure. Security again. It has happened. We've all learned from that. And what the lady said there, it can be a challenge and difficult at times. Capturing and making sure how we measure our success. I'll give an example of a failure. With the team just down there, they just appeared on the radar. They were down in Jazan, down at the south there. And the boss popped up to me and he said, I won't repeat what he said, but he said, these guys that are down on Jazan near Yemen, what are they doing there? And they'd come from another element of our business without engaging us. But that's a great point because it meant with a gap. So we put a system in place to close it. So we hopefully helps us measure a bit better, yeah.
Great. I think we had one more, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Charlie Ummer from Edimad Homeland Security. Just a question to the panellists about when they entered the organisation they're currently in, was there a travel risk management program already in place, or did they implement that, and what challenges did they come across when they were trying to implement something new like a travel risk management program into an organisation that previously didn't have it?
Left to right, 30 seconds. Gary.
Yeah, great question, Charlie. I came into a program that was really brand new, and I think that gave us the ability to actually build a very good foundation, working with the different stakeholders within the company and learning what the business was and what the business needs were. We were able to come up with the program that we have now to be able to actually help the business achieve their goals while also keeping colleagues safe on the road or on business travel.
Very fortunate. I don't deal with travel risk management at the moment within this current organisation, but I have some fantastic colleagues who have implemented a really good system.
Yeah, excellent, great point. So we set off by doing a risk assessment of travel. We looked at travel, identified the risks. We present that to the business and say, these are your risks. They obviously want to endorse and support it. And then working with HR, HSE, security, we built a journey management system. And it's not perfect, but it's definitely going the right way, yeah.
I think, adding to a conversation we had earlier on this morning that asked the same question, was a lot of companies are still finding their way. And they go to some large travel risk management providers which have fantastic tools, but unless there's someone in the organization with the buy-in and with the responsibility to integrate external third parties into how that corporation wishes to use the third-party capability and wishes to conduct its own travel, and how much appetite for risk have they actually got, then it's just a tool that isn't getting used. And those can be multiple tools, brought in, dare I say it, again, a horrible phrase, into a fusion center, but into whether it's a security team or a safety team. It's actually getting that integration that enables the system. Are there any more? We've got two. No, one, two.
This is Ali from Mergent Risk International. Sorry for delaying your lunch even further. Just a very quick question, taking you back to the social media. What is the line or the borderline between activities or marketing activities that companies are trying to promote prior to events such as this one, for example, and the security implications on that? If you could collaborate. Thank you.
Pete, I think you were mentioning earlier that line between marketing, social media, putting stuff out on LinkedIn, between our team from our company is going to attend an event, or we are going to have a presence at an event, rather than saying our CEO is going to this event, or our billionaire owner is going to this event.
Yeah, I think there's two elements of social media. Personally, I think it's a nightmare, or it's your best friend. You mentioned earlier, Waheed, people using social media to take a picture of something and send it to me. This happened very recently. I think you're aware of it, Nigel. Sent me a picture, said, this has just happened. They told us. It's irrelevant. We use, if it's for information regarding an incident, you must use your man on the ground and not listen to social media. On the other aspects, what you're talking about is it's utilising it and sanitising it. We use, I'm sure many organisations do, a platform called Yammer. We have many people very vocal on that from different cultures, which is understandable what's going on across the region. But at some stage, people have to step in and say, we need to tone down this sort of rhetoric within this specific group, So I think it's finding the balance. Social media, it can work, but you need to know where and how it works,
I think it leads back to the fact that security as safety function is a supporting function within a business. It's an enabling function, as is marketing, as is HR, as is finance. Too often a safety or a security individual or team can focus purely on enabling operations or enabling sales. So they've got to understand how integrated they've got to be with the other support functions of a business, all of which have ramifications for the wider enterprise. Are there any more questions? We have got two more.
No lunch.
Sorry, I have a bit of a sore throat. This is directed at Karim with regards employee safety. We see a lot of social media posts with the riders maybe helping with traffic or, trying to save a cat from a building. Do they know their limitations to keep themselves safe while we're doing this act of good Samaritan while on the field? What is the structure or the policy in regarding how they assist in public situations?
Okay, so we're talking operationally on staff that are traveling, not necessarily internationally, but who see someone broken down on the side of the road or see someone in need in a crowd or while they're walking around, and how do we engage with our employees as to when morally they might want to help, but with a corporate responsibility, maybe it's not the best idea.
I can take it from a Good Samaritan perspective. I know we teach it in our first aid course to all our colleagues, and we follow the Good Samaritan laws of whatever country we happen to be working in. And again, I think it becomes that individual's own personal feeling how they want to interact. I know myself, I'll probably, with my background and training, I'll get involved if I see an accident to try to help. But again, I think that has to be left up to the individual contributor.
I think it's very much that individual has got to take responsibility. What are they doing? Why are they doing it? And have they thought it through before they just act?
Yeah, sorry, Nigel, but again, it's a risk-based approach for sure. If you're in a shopping mall with your family and you see a child or a person go down in front of you, it's our human nature to assist. If you're doing a long drive in a remote country and you see someone on the side of the road trying to stop you, you know, that's a different thing. But it's education and awareness for sure, yeah.
Thank you. One more.
Hi, thank you. This is Jayesh. So this is a question for Peter. What happens when an organizer publishes, you know, somebody going to, your CEO going to an event, but the CEO's company is, you know, holding up the data? So how do you control that?
Well, there's only one way. It's got to be subtle but direct. You know, it's really promote it, saying where we're going. We're all, you know, especially a CEO. It's a risk, again, a risk-based approach. If we look at a CEO of a major organisation, he's a commodity somewhere. You know, he's a value for sure. So he, you know, it's not just educating down. We educate across and up. You know, we have to maybe do training with the ExCom or senior leadership team. They need to be aware of their actions and behaviours, not only putting themselves at risk, you know, but the business. So it must be confronted. How you do that, there's many ways, but it must be challenged for sure. It's not allowed.
Okay, thank you all very much for listening. Thank you for giving us your time. Waheed, thank you very much for stepping in and the support of CIRA for the event. Gentlemen, thank you very much for all the coordination it's taken to bring you onto the panel and for sharing your experiences with everybody.
Thank you very much.